Hello, this is Tom for Star Frontiers Gamer and Tabletop Tap Room. Today we're doing another crafting video for your Star Frontiers game. We're doing a Verskin Flea or an alien space flea miniature. It's a bit of a conversion from another product. In fact, let me do a share screen. So here we have the alien fleas, and I'll show you how I base these up. They're nicely pictured here with a couple of Drolosites and a Yazarian miniature. All three of those miniatures are actually from Reaper Miniatures, by the way. But before we get started, I just want to say thanks for watching the video, and thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. And if you've not subscribed, please do hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon. Help me build the channel. And you can also consider hitting the button in the link in the show notes for the Cafe Press store. We have a little bit of merch, supports the channel. But moving right along. So here we have the Dire Ant miniature from the Monster Apocalypse game. And I just thought he was really cool, so I bought up about 8 of these off eBay a while back. And you want to use these types of wire cutters that have that nice flat edge that lets you get flush with that flat base. And so you're snipping the foot away from the base and not actually cutting into the foot. And you just want to liberate the Dire Ant from this Monster Apocalypse base, because the aesthetics of the Monster Apocalypse base is not so much. This is a chopper from Monster Apocalypse. These guys pop right away with one cut of those wire cutters. And we'll be doing them as well. This is another one of the Monster Apocalypse miniatures, kind of a slug with tentacles, so I thought it was very Sapphire looking. Now, I use a 7/8 inch fender washer for a lot of my bases. 7/8 inch is just a tad smaller than 1 inch, so if you're using terrain that was geared towards 1 inch terrain, it fits a little better. You want to glue down a little piece of cardstock or index card, cover that hole on the fender washer, super glue, let that set up. We've got a second washer here with the paper already on there set up. Now we're using a paper clip, and we're cutting away a long piece of the paper clip to be our pin at one of the curves. And we're just bending that curve around with the needle nose pliers, and then bending the long shank of the wire up to be our pin. And you got to get it so that this thing stands up. Now it's being real fiddly with me, and you're going to see me struggling in this for quite a bit of the video. Even though I have the video at 150% speed, you keep fiddling with it. You just need a nice little curly cue to be the stand, and then the pen going straight up, and you're going to glue that down to the base. And we're about to get it right here. There we go. Now to glue it down, again, a little drop of glue, get it on there, and let her set up. Luckily, I have another base already dried and ready to go. But here we go. You can see the fender washer, the paper, and the piece of paper clip. And we're breaking out the, this is Magic Sculpt. And I like Magic Sculpt because I bought this big tub of resin and hardener for 20 bucks back before COVID and the recession. So you can imagine, looking at this, how much 20 bucks worth of green stuff would get you. Not that much. That's why I like it. So we're just picking out 2 little balls of each, same size, mixing them together, and then we're going to apply it to this base. Now, previously I'd done a bunch of these, and I tend to do it so that the base is a little bit more of a mound, because I'm making a base that looks like dirt and ground. And with that chomper and that slug with the tentacles, they're flat on the bottom, so they need a flat base. So I'll show you in a second here. A lot of these other bases were kind of domed, kind of conical. And that doesn't work for those, but it works just fine for these Dire Ants, these what I call a Verskin Flea. Now I'm using the Warhammer paint handle here. So about $7 back before COVID. They might have gone up in price. They're well worth it. I love these things for holding a base when I'm working on a miniature. They're absolutely well worth the price. One of the few things I can in the Warhammer stores that I consider to be worth the sticker price. All right, so you can see that one's not so flat. This one, I'm using the Teflon sculpting tool to get a nice flat surface. So when I go to glue down that slug with the tentacles or the chomper there, they'll fit on that base and it'll look all right. It won't look funny. Now, this brush, normally I used to use a toothbrush, but the good wife had this brush here, like some sort of double-sided brush, and each side's actually got a different texture pattern. So I was like, oh, honey, you got to give that to me. So I put it in the sculpting, in the the miniatures box, and you just kind of poke at the surface of the resin there to get it a nice texture. And here I've taken one that has set up properly and primed it with gray spray paint, and we're going to paint it. Now I'm using Model Color by Vallejo. This is mahogany sand, and so it's just a nice dark color for my base. And then I'm going to use a darker wash. This is actually Shade Seraphim Sepia from Citadel, the Games Workshop Warhammer store. I could actually make this kind of stuff from scratch, but it's a pain. Not when you can go to the store and you can buy a nice technical paint like their washes and stuff and just use it. You just open it and use it. It just makes it way too easy. So for my money, I'd rather just drop a few bucks on this and go ahead and have it and not have to mix up, washes and stuff like this every time. All right. So you see how the paint handle comes in handy when you're painting. I'm not getting paint all over my fingers. And this is the small paint handle. They come in two sizes, and each one actually has two different settings for two different size bases. Oh, it's just spring loaded. Just open it up, drop the base in there, and let it cinch on. So there's the one I'm using for a wash, and I'm heavily painting this on so that it gets in all the nooks and crannies that the paint didn't quite get into, and some of those little depressions. And then you got to let it dry. And once it's dry, we will then do some highlights. And for my highlights, I'm going to use the Model Color by Vallejo. I like the Model Color paints. Mostly because I throw a little plastic bead in here as a shaker, shaker bead. And I just like these for controlled putting of a drop into the palette. And so you just dry brush on. This is dark sand. I'm just dry brushing it on. And this gives me three different colors to the base. That base, that mahogany, the darker sepia wash, and then I've highlighted in a lighter sand. You could highlight in a couple of different colors. Now the Army Painter Jungle Tufts. I love this product. This is so much easier to use than the old static grass where you'd be adding tufts of grass to the base with static grass. Literally, you just peel these off of this piece of paper, put a drop of super glue on them, and press them on the base. And literally, you're going to watch here on the video, I press two of them on the base, and I'm instantly working to glue the miniature onto the base. I'm not even waiting. It sets up pretty fast, and I've never had a problem with these. But add these tufts of grass, and this one here is Jungle Tuft. I bought it simply because it was green. I didn't get it because it was jungle. I got it because it was green. They come in a variety of colors. I highly recommend them. Pin vise drill. Using the pin vise drill on the miniature, on his just front of the abdomen and just back of the head. And this plastic's actually pretty dense. And I'm pulling the shavings out of the drill hole with the tweezers. And struggling with the pin vise drill, not using it the standard way where you just put the pressure from one finger. I'm actually gripping it and turning it, which is which makes it prone for this back end to unscrew while you're doing this. You have to keep tightening that, but it was just that the plastic was so dense. So you do a dry fit, and because the pin is so long, I'm just eyeballing how much of that I've got to cut with the wire cutters. I'm going to cut that off screen because when you cut with the wire cutters, that little piece of wire goes rocketing across the room. So I just want it angled into the trash can and nobody loses an eye, which keeps me out of trouble with the good wife. All right, so we've dry fit him on, and now we're going to add a drop of super glue. Yeah, that hole's being a bugger. There we go. Now he's split on. See, it looks good. So we add a drop of super glue. Now, I could have stripped the paint off of these Monster Apocalypse miniatures with acetone, but I thought these dire ants look good as they are. I just didn't even feel like I had a need to repaint them. Now, I actually did up a set of stats for this. So here you see again the photograph of the miniatures with the dire ants. I've done about 6 of them. I've got 2 more, and I'm debating to make a flying stand, and you'll see why. I use the basic stats in the Alpha Dawn rulebook for a medium-sized carnivore, which was 1 to 10 in number, but I've bumped it up to 2 to 10, and a super swarm at 5 to 50. They've got a medium speed for walking, which is 60 meters per turn, but they can fly, float in the air for 15 meters per turn. And then the rest of the stats, special attack as a drop attack. And then I've specified that they came from the Versk homeworld or from Turladrom in the Frontier. Now, the flying attack is, the Flea is from the Versk evolutionary chain. So, of course, they have the internal, external structure. They've got a expandable abdomen that they fill up with hydrogen after they've eaten. And this allows them to float about 100 meters in the air. Now, because hydrogen is highly combustible, shooting a Verskin Flea's abdomen with lasers, gyrojets, or heavy rockets while it is floating or still descending in a drop attack will cause it to explode in a shower of gore. Thought that was a nice little touch. Once the Flea has reached the ground, it has completely expelled hydrogen and must feed to generate more and go aloft. Other weapons like the auto rifle will only puncture the abdomen and reduce the Flea's drop attack by 10% for each D10 worth of damage the weapon would have done, and which is significant because the basic attack for a medium carnivore is 75%. So these guys are dropping out of the air. And when they hit somebody, they do double damage and they knock them prone. There's a reaction speed save to avoid being knocked prone. So this is kind of a dangerous creature because of that first attack can really carry the battle. And if all of the characters get knocked prone, they've got to stand up. They're easier to attack because they're knocked prone. So this could be something that really puts them on the defensive. And so I've also worked out the penalties for just targeting the abdomen, which would be -5. If the Flea is floating, there's no movement penalty. But if they're in a high-speed drop attack, that'll be -30 to target them. So that would stack with I'm just targeting the abdomen. And so once the Fleas are on the ground, they swarm and eat prey after killing it. In high winds, the scratch, we were a group of Fleas, we're calling them a scratch, will be scattered. But if the winds are too high, the Fleas will land and congregate, locating each other with high-pitched chirp or squeak. The Versk have brought this creature with them to most planets that they colonized, and it has been featured at many zoos across the frontier. Unfortunately, their eggs and larvae are small, and it's almost inevitable that these creatures escape to the wild. Thus, these creatures can be encountered on many worlds, from the Versk sector to Grand Quivera. And on Kadikik, Flea hunts are a sport with laser rifles, and the fleas are grown on farms for this very purpose. So a little bit of frontier culture added in. This document is a PDF. I've made it available. There's a link in the show notes. You can go ahead and download that and use this creature, and possibly even do a creature conversion and use it. You might even use it with these silly monster apocalypse bases that I don't like. But I was looking at this thinking, if I can cut this apart and take that paper out of there, maybe I can put a nice little mesh screen in there and turn this into a sci-fi miniatures base, with a nice sci-fi look to it. Maybe. We will end this video with a nice little look at the miniatures. These Drolocytes and Yazarian are in the Reaper Chronoscope line, if you're interested. The smallest Drolocyte is a conversion. Cut the head off and resculpt it. So this is Tom for Tabletop Taproom and Star Frontiers Gamer, signing out. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. And I will see you in the frontier.